Welcome, everybody. Happy Thursday. Thank you so much to everybody for joining us today to talk about how to transition your center to digital communication. We have two absolutely amazing directors coming to join us for a conversation today, and I think this webinar is going to be absolutely fantastic. Thank you so much to all of you for taking time out of your busy, busy lives to sit here and be with us on a Thursday afternoon. My favorite afternoon of the week. Welcome, everybody. As always, go ahead and post in the chat. Let us know where you're coming from today. Hello, welcome. Seema, Jocelyn, thank you so much for being here with us today. Welcome, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. We are going to be talking about how to transition your center to digital communication with two fabulous directors sitting on our panel today, and I'm so excited for our conversation. I've had the pleasure of chatting with them both a few times, and I know it's going to be a lot of fun, and you're going to learn some amazing tips and tricks from them. Welcome, everybody. Happy Thursday afternoon, my favorite afternoon of the week. I'm so excited to be here with you all. We have such a fabulous webinar lined up. Welcome, everybody. As always, for all of you joining our live webinar today, you will receive a certificate of participation for being here with us today, and we will get those out to you by early next week. So don't worry at all if you do not see your certificate by today, by tomorrow. You'll absolutely get it by early next week. Welcome, everybody. Happy Thursday. So lovely to be here with you all again. Today, we are talking about how to transition your center to digital communication, a big topic. I'm so excited about it. Welcome, everybody. Thank you so much for being here with us today. It's so nice to see so many familiar names in the chat. As always, when you settle in, let us know where you're coming from today. Hello from Toronto. I'm in Toronto as well. I hope you are enjoying the 15-degree weather we're finally having here. Welcome. Thank you so much again for all of you for being here. We know just how busy your lives are, so we really appreciate you taking the time to be here with us today and to learn about how to transition your center to digital communication. I know that can be a really big and intimidating step for a lot of centers. So we are having a fabulous conversation with two directors today on what their experience was like, and you can learn directly from your peers. Ask them questions from those in the same position as you on how they went about making this transition. Welcome, everybody. If you are just joining us, happy Thursday, my favorite afternoon of the week. We are talking about how to transition your center to digital communication. And again, for all of you who are joining us live today, you will all receive a certificate of participation, and we will get those out to you by early next week. So do not worry if you don't see that certificate today. It might not be in your inbox tomorrow either. We will get them to you as early as possible, and most likely by early next week. I'm going to wait just about 30 to 40 more seconds. I do want to maximize our full hour here together. I know it's really hard to find an hour in your busy schedule, so I want to make sure we get the full hour used up. Welcome, everybody. I'm getting distracted seeing everyone in the chat. Thank you so much for joining us. Hello from Toronto again. I hope your children are enjoying the warm weather if you're in Toronto at your center today. I know it's still a little bit rainy, but puddles are always fun as well. Okay, everybody, it is officially 2 o'clock. I am going to cut off the music there, and we are going to go ahead and get started so we can maximize our full hour. Again, if you just joined us, welcome, everybody. Happy Thursday afternoon. Thank you for joining our webinar on how to transition your center to digital communication, a very exciting topic. Before we dive in, I know for so many centers right now, it is so hard to find time to do lesson planning, and especially because many centers are experiencing quite a challenging staffing crisis. let us know in the chat, do you find it really challenging as an educator to find time to do your program planning, or as a director to give your educators that time to do program planning? I remember when I was an educator, I was always bringing that work home with me, and it's really hard to find the time. So we are here to help. If you need help with your lesson planning, please check out our Hi Mama activities. We have hundreds, that number should actually be changed to 450 plus activities now in there. You can get them right here in box. You can filter by domain, by age, by theme, and even save your favorite ones based on your observations in the classroom and what the children are interested in. Morgan will post a link in the chat on how you can access our Hi Mama activities, and I highly recommend that you do to save some time with your lesson planning. As always, a quick disclaimer before we get started. So the content we are sharing with you today is not personalized, legal, or financial advice for your center. So the goal is that we're going to have a conversation, and hopefully you'll take away some great tips, tricks, and techniques for your center. But please be sure that you are consulting the right people if you are looking at making any big changes at your center. And we're now going to give a quick listen to our land acknowledgement.
Hi Mama acknowledges that our main headquarters is situated in Toronto, Ontario, on the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, and the Haudenosaunee and the Wendat peoples, and is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples. Toronto itself is a word that originates from the Mohawk word takaranto, meaning the place in the water where the trees are standing. As participants and guests in today's webinar, we are coming together from many different places around the world. We encourage you to learn about and acknowledge the land from which you participate.
Okay, and we're now going to give a listen to our diversity and inclusion statement. Oops.
Hi Mama is committed to fostering an inclusive and welcoming environment for our employees, customers, and community. Hi Mama welcomes and celebrates individuals of all backgrounds, orientations, and identities. Our Diversity, Inclusion, and Belonging Committee aims to ensure we provide a safe environment for everyone to thrive while bringing their authentic selves to work. Our mission is to promote an inclusive workspace for all employees through education, discussion, and celebration of our differences. Embracing these differences while coming together with a common purpose is what makes our team extra special.
Okay, and as always, a few housekeeping pieces before we get started. So as always, this session is being recorded. So if for any reason at all you do have to pop off early, do not worry, you will receive the recording by early next week in our show notes email. Also know that we are recording with the closed caption turned on. If you do require the closed caption on your side of the computer as well, just be sure that you hit that CC tab on your Zoom. And again, in regards to the certificate, so for everyone who is joining us live today, you will absolutely receive a certificate of participation for being here with us, and we will get those out to you by early next week. So again, do not worry if you don't see it today or even tomorrow, we will get those out to you. And lastly, if you're having any issues at all with your connection, we just want to make sure you're consulting the right people. So if you're having any issues with your Zoom, please be sure to reach out to support.zoom.us. They know their product the best, and they will be able to help you with any Zoom related issues that you are having. Okay, and hi Mama, welcome. If this is your first webinar, please let us know in the chat. I'm so happy that you have found your way to us. If you don't know much about Hi Mama is a childcare management software. So we help centers make their lives as easy as possible through seamless online parent communication, photo and video sharing. We have contactless billing available, child portfolios, assessments. It's all in there for you. If you are interested in learning how Hi Mama can help you at your center, we would love to show you and take you on a tour of the Hi Mama app. Morgan will post a link in the chat if you are interested in learning more about Hi Mama. And if you do join the Hi Mama family, just know you will absolutely receive world-class support. I can promise you that. I used to be on our customer support team as well, and I can absolutely say from firsthand experience, it is a fabulous group of humans who are waiting to support you in making this change at your center. And if you didn't know, on top of our weekly webinars, we also offer weekly podcasts that get put out as well with the CEO of Hi Mama. We have articles by industry experts, and again, we have hundreds of activities to support you in your lesson planning and program development at your center. And lastly, if you didn't know, Hi Mama is a B certified company. So what this means is that as we work with you in our amazing community of educators, we are also making a positive impact and contribution to the early education space. And finally, your hosts. Again, if this is your first time joining us and you've never met me before, my name is Maddie. I'm a customer advocacy specialist here at Hi Mama. I'm also one of the early childhood educators on our team. And of course, your host of our Hi Mama Helps webinars. And then we have my lovely co-host, Morgan. Welcome, Morgan. Thank you so much for being here with us today. As always, Morgan, what's going on with you today? Any fun facts to share?
No, we kind of briefly talked about it, but I'm just amazed by this beautiful weather. I cannot wait until I take a walk tonight. I'm looking out my window right now and I see the blue skies and the white fluffy clouds, and I just can't wait to get out there. So looking forward to today's webinar though. It's going to be a good one.
Me too, absolutely. Thanks so much, Morgan. All right, and finally, our guests of honor today, we have Dorie Heffron, who is the Center Director of ABC Academy here in Toronto. And we also have Amanda Shroyer. Amanda, I'm so sorry, I don't know why your name's not showing up on our slide there, who is the Center Director for Muddy Feet Early Learning in Indiana. Amanda, Dorie, please come on. Thank you so much for being here with us today. Welcome. And Dorie and Amanda, how are you both doing today? Why don't you share a little fun fact about both of you and what's going on in your world today? Go ahead, Dorie.
Hi, everyone. I am, like Maddie said, from Toronto. I have not had an opportunity to enjoy the good weather just yet, but definitely will tonight. I'm very excited to be here and to talk about Hi Mama.
We're very excited that you're here as well, Dorie.
I'm Amanda, and I'm in the United States. It's not as nice here today, but I'm really excited to share what I know about Hi Mama, because I tell everybody that asks, yes, you want Hi Mama, do this. So I'm excited to be here.
I'm super excited to have this conversation with both of you today. Before we dive right into our conversation on how to transition to digital communication at your center, I just want to go through some of our key takeaways for today. So we're going to talk with Amanda and Dorie about why directors are deciding to transition to childcare management software. We're going to talk about effective change management skills and how to be successful with this change, because we know that this is a really big change for your center. We want to make sure that you feel supported as you go about this transition. We are going to talk about some very valuable insights that Amanda and Dorie have both learned after making this transition, and of course, get some firsthand stories right from them. So this is a really fabulous opportunity for us to have a conversation with two directors who have had firsthand experience on going through this transition. So as we go through our conversation with Amanda and Dorie today, please use our Q&A function. Write any questions you have, and we will be sure to get to as many of those questions as we can at the end. This is a really exciting opportunity for you to chat directly with some of your peers in the early learning community about this transition, especially if it is one that you've been wanting to make and are a little unsure about how to go about doing it, or any challenges that might come your way. So I'm going to go ahead and actually stop sharing my screen for this webinar today. And what I'm going to do is just keep our screen like this so we can really see Amanda and Dorie. And what we'll do is we're going to go through a conversation together on how to transition to digital communication. So first thing first, Amanda and Dorie, why don't we do, I know you just mentioned who you were, but why don't we do a quick introduction of your role at your center and when you made the transition to Hi Mama. And Dorie, why don't we start with you?
So I'm the center director here. We made the switch about 3 years ago now. We had used a different software that was similar, did not offer as much as Hi Mama does, So then we made the switch over about 3 years ago.
Amazing. And what about you, Amanda?
Well, I am now the administrator. I've been in every role in the center that I at. And we went to Hi Mama in 2017. So this is our 5th year with Hi Mama.
Amazing. Okay, so I have a few questions here for you today. I'm so excited for this conversation. But what I would love to learn from both of you is, what was that trigger point to switch to digital communication? And a bit of a two-part to that question. So why don't you let us know what you were using previously? And then at what point you realized, I know this is a bit different for both of you, depending on who made the decision, but at what point you realized you needed to make a switch to digital communication and the challenges you had with the previous form of communication. And Dorie, why don't we go ahead and start with you again?
So we were using a program that only allowed us to record sleep, eating, and diaper changes. It was effective for the parents. The parents could not view it live. They would receive a report at the end of the day, and they could then review it. There was no emailing parents. There was no sending pictures. We were bought out around that time by a company called Bright Path Kids, who was already using Hi Mama, and they wanted to mainstream us onto the program. It's just been game changing, and I will definitely say that it was even better during the pandemic, because that email feature that parents were able to communicate directly with our families was so amazing. They weren't allowed into the center. They weren't seeing the teachers in the morning or at the end of the night. So to be able to send a quick email to say, my child never slept last night, or have you noticed this, have you noticed that, has just been so beneficial for us all keeping communication with one another. And I don't know what we would have done if we didn't have this access for the teachers to communicate.
Yeah. So the previous system you used, you mentioned it wasn't as all-encompassing. So were you doing a bit of a hybrid model of communication and documentation then, also using pen and paper? Did you have another software to fill those gaps?
No, we were doing pen and paper. We would post stuff in the classroom for parents to see, and they would come. If we had to send some information, it would be sent either by pen and paper, or the teachers would give me the information and I would email the families on my own. But it was done old school.
Right. So walk us through a little bit what pen and paper communication looked like at your center. Like, how were you sharing photos? How were you getting urgent messages across, things like that? Like, what was kind of a standard day in the life using pen and paper?
Yeah, pen and paper is very slow. It's very slow to get to parents, the messages get there at the end of the day. They were not getting there during the day. We can send an email. A lot of our families work from home. We can send an email very quickly to say your child's out of diapers, and then boom, 20 minutes later, the diapers show up at the front door. So when you are doing pen and paper, you were waiting for the end of the night to have that communication. What we were also finding is parents at the end of the night at pickup time are very busy. They're thinking about dinner. They're thinking about how to get their other child from another classroom and get at the door. So when you're talking to them, it was going right over their heads that, you're trying to have this conversation with them. So you hand them a piece of paper, and then 2 days later, they would say to you, I know you gave me a piece of paper, and I know there was something really important on it. I can't find that piece of paper. And then as educators, they'd have to think, oh, what message did I send? We have 10 other children in the classroom. What was that message that I wrote you? So a lot of things would get lost. A lot of things would get missed. Communication wasn't the smoothest, that is for sure.
Right. And that must have been a little bit frustrating. I'm sure many directors and educators on here can relate. Spending a lot of time on documentation to find it left in the cubby on the floor, just never makes its way out of the center. That can definitely be frustrating.
Absolutely.
Okay, Amanda, I saw a lot of head nodding.
Sorry.
As you should. I think that's amazing. You clearly were really connecting with what Dorie was saying as well. So why don't you take us through, for your center, what the trigger was for purchasing Hi Mama, and what you were using before, and what challenges you had that led you to Hi Mama? A few different points in that question.
We were exclusively paper report cards. We could send emails. The administrator then would send emails if we had something widespread to share. But for the younger kids, we had to do 2 report cards for every child so that one could go home, and then we had to keep one for 30 days. But then the ones that we sent home would be left in the cubbies, found in the driveway, lost in the car. And then they were like personal messaging the teachers to say, hey, how did they eat today? How did, so there was not a good line of communication because nothing was getting to the parents because they were leaving these report cards everywhere. Plus, it was a lot on the teachers to ask them to fill out 2 report cards. And the administrator at the time, I don't know how she heard. I probably should have asked her before this, but she heard about Hi Mama and presented it to some of the staff members. And at the time I was doing 16 report cards a day for the 8 babies in my room. And I was on board. Like, I didn't even need more information. Just, yes, if we could do digital report cards, let's do this. And so we made this, they started switching, like getting prepared at the end of 2016, I think she said. And then we started with Hi Mama in January of 2017. And we just haven't looked back. Like, it's been amazing.
Amazing. So this will be really interesting because Dorie is bringing us a perspective of being the director going about this change. Whereas Amanda, you can also speak what it felt like as an educator going through this change, because you were in the infant classroom when it was first brought in. That's correct. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. Amazing. Okay. So Dorie, let's bounce back over to you for a second. So I know the decision to bring in Hi Mama came from when Bright Path became involved with your center. Now, the decision came in from Bright Path, but did the responsibility fall on your shoulders to introduce it to your staff?
You know what? We worked as a team towards it.
Awesome.
We were very fortunate because they had introduced this to their other centers before, that they already had a policy in play for staff, which I think is one of the key methods of introducing something to staff. You can sit and talk about something, but it's nice to give them a little handbook that says, here's what Hi Mama is about. Here's your expectations with it. Here's what parents will see when you send a report. This is how you'll communicate with them. And it's a great reminder. Sometimes, staff will come up to us and say, how many pictures are we supposed to send again? And you'll say, well, let's refer back to that package. So, we definitely had a lot of staff meetings before we launched this. Lots of staff meetings, set up a little dummy account first, and we all had a little practice run with it. So it was a lot of work also on the admin part as well. But I also think that the more you invest in something new, get staff excited about it, show them that you can do it, that they can do it, walk them through anything that they're nervous, then they start to get a little bit more excited about it.
Yeah, absolutely. So then going back to kind of that first meeting you had when you were making this transition, were you a little bit nervous about bringing it to your staff about the reaction they might have to this change? And what was their reaction at that very first meeting?
Yes, whenever we have to introduce something new, I'm always nervous because the first thing out of everybody's mouth is, this is more work for us. This is time consuming. How am I going to get this done? And I know, Maddie, we talked about, now that we've gone through a pandemic and change happens regularly all the time, maybe if we introduce something new, staff would be a little bit more on board. But back then I knew there was going to be resistance. There was, out of a staff team of 38, maybe we had about 5 staff who went, woohoo, this is exciting. But the majority of the other staff went, this is a lot of work that you're expecting from us.
Okay, and now that's an intimidating reaction. That's a big chunk of your educators.
Yes.
Okay, so I really want to go through kind of step by step how you overcame those resistant staff and tech hesitant staff. But before we get too far into that, I'd love to bounce back to Amanda first. Now, I know you were super excited. You're one of those 5 staff that Dorie had who was raising their hand. Now, in terms of your colleagues, did you find everyone was excited at your center, or did you notice a bit of an imbalance the same way Dorie did?
At the time, we had a handful of staff members who were older, and they were a little hesitant, but they weren't exactly like heels in the dirt or whatever the phrase is. But I think they were just more worried about messing it up, right? Because on pen and paper, you can see what you messed up and you can fix it. everybody had a big giant bottle of whiteout in their rooms, and so they were worried about how did they fix it if they mess it up. So that was the good part, I guess, on our end, was there was a bit of a hesitant crowd, but they still were like, okay, I'm still listening. Like, let's tell me about this. And we could work through it then.
Right. So when you were first told about making the transition from pen and paper to digital communication, was it similar to the way it happened at Dorie Center, where you all came together in a bit of a staff meeting?
I mean, I've slept a lot in 5 years, so I don't exactly remember how we put it out there, but I know it just started as like a classroom conversation. Like the admin came into the room, like, hey, this is what I'm thinking about doing. Thoughts, worries, what are you thinking? Like, good, bad, give me everything. And she kind of did that with everybody first. And then we had a group meeting about, okay, like, why is this going to be better for us? Why is it going to be better for the parents? Why is it not going to be better? And we kind of just hashed it all out then. And like, okay, we will commit to 1 year. Let's do this for 1 year. And if by the end of that year, we all hate it, we can bail and do something else. And so that's sort of how we started, was just, we got to give it a year because that's how you pay for it. And then we just all agreed to sort of work through it together. And I think it was just sort of a group thing, like, all right, this is the new thing and we're going to figure this out. And we just all asked each other questions and started sharing the things that, okay, if you do this and you mess it up, this is how you fix it, right? So we just started the conversation amongst ourselves. And I think that really helped everybody get on the same page really fast.
Absolutely. So what I'm kind of learning from both of you, and I think a really great key tip that we can share with everyone today, is that step one is just having that open communication with your educators, sitting down with them and understanding, this is something that we've learned about, and communicating why this transition is happening and the benefits they may find from it, but then also making sure that you're creating an open, safe space to hear their concerns as you move forward. So it seems like a little bit less of this like pressure coming down on them. Absolutely. Okay, so Dorie, let's bounce back to you then. So I know you had a lot of staff resistance at your center, and that seems like it was probably quite challenging for you. So what was the very first thing you did after that staff meeting? You learned that this was going to be a bit challenging. What did you do to help support those staff?
So during our staff meeting, we shared with them the video that Hi Mama had sent us, the introduction video, which to get them excited, to show them exactly what this was all about, what features there was. We did go in with the staff and told them that we were going to do a very soft launch. So although you're going to watch this video and there are all these incredible things that the app offers, take a deep breath. You're not doing all of that on day one. So we started off very slowly, where we said to staff, just like before, we'll record diaper changes, we'll record food and going to the washroom. And, then a couple of weeks later, well, let's start communicating through email. Let's start uploading pictures so that it wasn't so overwhelming. So that did relax them. The video excited them as well, because, a lot of my staff are parents themselves. So they were able to sit there and go, wow, this is great that's coming from parents. Parents get to see all of this. They get to have pictures. This is so great. So they started to slowly get on board, but I think definitely reassuring them that we were going to, slowly introduce this into the system for them, that made them feel a lot better.
Absolutely. So first, validating their concerns, explaining the why, and then we're going to really take it step by step.
Absolutely. So, well, and definitely, and we tried it out ourselves. So my program supervisor and I said to them, like, if I can do it, because I am definitely the older staff, if I can do it, you can do it. I've played around with it. It's not that difficult to do. And they all know that, computers, technology, it's not really my thing. So if I can do it, you got it too.
Absolutely. And then what did kind of the plan look like? Did you notice that some staff started to become comfortable with Hi Mama more quickly than others? And then how did you kind of adjust based on need as you kept going?
Absolutely. I'd say after day 2, the younger staff that were very tech savvy said to us, I know you said just record the diaper changes, that can we start taking pictures? Can we start sending them? And they were excited. We didn't want to say no. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Parents weren't expecting that. So go ahead, send a couple of pictures. So we really embraced the staff that were getting excited about it. We also utilized those staff. So we said to those workers, if you're comfortable with this, do you want to go and chat in our other toddler classroom or other infant classroom? Let them know some tricks and trades that you used. We had a lot more staff meetings than we would normally around that time as well, and mainly around the Hi Mama, and sharing stories with each other. What are you struggling with? What are you really excelling in? And just leaning on each other, because I also find that, you know, it's easy to say, oh, well, she's good at it because she's young and you know, she's got a computer at home herself. Where we had a couple of the older staff that caught on pretty quickly and said to the other older staff, not that hard, let me show you how to do it. So, you know, they were all able to relate with one another, work through any anxiety that they had. We were all in the same boat. We were all going through this at the same time. So really utilizing each other during that time.
Absolutely. And one last quick question for you, Dorie. How long was all this? Like, how long was introducing Hi Mama to staff started to feel comfortable to then it's part of your routine?
I would say 2 weeks for the majority of the staff, some of them faster. The odd staff, maybe 3 weeks. But I would say after that first month was done, we were using it fully, and staff were not having issues at all.
Okay, that's amazing. So even for those who are the most resistant at first, through open communication and letting staff feel comfortable making mistakes, they eventually found their comfort within about 3 weeks.
Absolutely. And what we also noticed, and I would recommend for anybody, the staff who were most resistant hid behind their room partners. So they would say to the room partner, oh, you're really good at that. So why don't you do the inputting and I'll go watch the kids. So although you were seeing these incredible reports, you didn't realize that both of them were not doing it. And just saying to the staff, like, you won't feel comfortable unless you try it out, unless you start to make this a part of your day and do it every single day yourselves. So I would definitely recommend that you keep an eye on which staff are using it and which staff are not. Because again, once they got comfortable with it, you don't even think about it anymore. We hire a new staff and the new staff's eyes go big when you talk about Hi Mama and you're like, what's your problem? It's so easy. You just watch. Because again, we've been through it and we know that once they catch on, they're going to catch on.
Absolutely. And Amanda, did you find a similar timeline, or was it a bit different at your center in terms of here is the new form of communication and now we found a routine?
I'd say it's about the same timeline. It kind of reminded me, I sort of repressed this memory or something, I guess, but I had one of the older people that I was working with in the room, and she was very nervous about it because she didn't even really know how to use her phone, let alone, you know, this. And so for the first, I don't even remember, it felt like a long time, she would watch me walk through every entry that I did, and I would talk through it. Okay, I'm going to hit the plus button, and then I'm going to find this person. And I did that for her for a few days. And then we switched spots and she went to enter one and she talked through it and she put it in. And I like encouraged her along the way. And then she got one done. Okay, we got this. And then, you know, we did that. And by the end of the week, she was really proud of herself because she's like, I can do this. I got this. I can put this change in. So it really didn't take long for everybody to get together on this.
Yeah, that's lovely. I think it's so important, and you both said this, but just as leaders to really let our educators share those concerns and really validate them, because transitioning to digital communication, if like you said, Amanda, you're not even quite comfortable with using a phone on a regular basis quite yet, like a smartphone, like validly, that's a big change. That's a big adjustment. So it seems like something that you both kind of did was you had this plan in place, you had those open conversations, and then depending on the level of the staff, kind of, you know, targeted support based on the staff's needs. Either let them run with it or let them go at their own pace with additional support until they got there themselves. Amazing. And let's say, okay, so that first transition month has gone by, you've worked with your staff to overcome their fears and help them adjust to the program. Amanda, when did you first start to notice a shift in any resistant educators or even non-resistant educators? Like, when did you notice they started to get really comfortable and provide positive feedback about Hi Mama?
I'd say within that first month, like by maybe the third, fourth week is when everybody started, like Dorie said, can I start doing this? Can I start doing that? And it really started to, I think, move the shift in their own minds that we're educators, we're not just teachers. Like, we're not just putting in the change and stuff, we're putting in our activities now. And then it started out with just connect it to one like one foundation. If you can just get it connected to one thing. Everybody had a paper copy, like a huge thick paper copy of the foundations in their room, to try to like start matching things up. But it was like, okay, we're going to start with one. Like, now that we're comfortable with the changes and the food and the naps, we're going to start adding one activity with one foundation hook to it. And then, we just kept building on from there. And I felt like, it seemed like by the beginning of the second month, it was really taking off fast. I think we all forgot the whole, we only have to do this for a year agreement. By that point, we were like, okay, this is good. Because then the parent feedback started coming in too. And we could see the difference. You could see the difference in the staff and with the parents, and it really changed how we were worried about it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. So they've kind of gotten over that hurdle of, this is intimidating at first. Let's just practice. Let's just get our hands on it. Let's make mistakes until we're comfortable. I think you really brought up an important topic of, once they start to get that feedback from families coming in and actually seeing a change in their day-to-day life in the classroom, that's when the why all starts to come together about why they went through that, transitionary period. So, Amanda, for your educators, I know it took about a month or so to get fully comfortable. What do you think is that biggest, value find for them? Once they got comfortable, like, what was it that helped them realize this has been very helpful in our day-to-day lives?
When they realized how much time they weren't spending writing report cards. Like, they could just select all the kids because they all, did the same thing or whatever, or however they were doing it. They could put it in real quick, put their note in, and you weren't handwriting things and whiting out things. Like, when they would get all this stuff in the report card and then sort of stand there like, I have extra time and I should not have extra time. Like, I think that's when it all started clicking, when they realized how much how much time they weren't wasting writing cards. Like, we can be down on the floor because we're not with our clipboard now, that was the biggest aha moment, I think, for everybody. It's just how easy it was and how quick it was.
Amazing. And time in early childhood, time is huge. Extra time, that's unheard of. Amazing. And before we jump back over to you, Dorie, Amanda, what was some of the parent feedback they got? Because I think for any staff who struggle with this transition, so if anyone on here is struggling with this with their own educators, I think a really important thing is, once you start to see that feedback come in from your parents, because you start to realize the impact that this new form of communication is actually having on the lives of the families that you care for. So what was some of that parent feedback that came in?
A lot of it was just like, initially they were like, oh, another app, my phone. But then when they check in live, and when they could see how they were eating their bottles, and then they could send a message real quick, be like, hey, I noticed this, is everything okay? Is she feeling well? The app allowed us to have more details. So if there was a concern about, the parent came in that morning and said, hey, I'm really worried about this, can you just keep an eye on it? Like, there's a rash on his leg. We could put a note at the diaper changes, the rash looks the same or whatever. It just really improved communication because we could add so many details so easily. And then the parents could see it in real time. And I tell my staff now, like, fill your report cards out like they would take it to the doctor. If something was wrong, they could take this report card to the doctor, so that we have all the information on it. And that's a big thing. Parents now are, new parents will praise the app and how easy it is to see what's going on, and they can check in real quick. And it did not take long before parents started like really getting excited about being able to see what was going on throughout the day and not having to wait until the end of the day to get all of the information when they're thinking about supper and the drive home and the laundry. And, it really, I felt like took some stress off of them in a way.
Absolutely. It's instead of trying to use that 30-second pickup and drop off time, parents can go through the communication at a time that's convenient for them. So they can really go through everything you've shared with them. And now, Dorie, I'd kind of love to hear from your side of things, essentially the same question, but what was that aha moment for your educators that they, if they ever, came to you and said, I resisted this, but I am glad we made this transition because this is the value I have found?
It definitely was the parents appreciating the work that they put into this. The positive feedback. I would say the majority of our families were so excited and loved receiving the pictures. Again, they used to receive something at the end of the night, which was not as detailed. And now they had a lot of details in it. And they would come in at the end of the night excited, thanking the staff, saying, oh my goodness, I saw that paint picture. That was so cute. Where's the finished product? Staff would take them over and show them on the wall. There was big excitement. And that made staff feel so proud that they had done something so wonderful for these family members. So I definitely think that was the ha-ha moment. And it actually happened a little bit sooner because parents immediately right away, once we started sending pictures, were just like, this is absolutely incredible.
Amazing. That's so important. I love hearing that from both of you because, like we said, when we started our conversation, we were talking about our previous methods of communication and how paper got left behind. Educators would find it on the floor. And what early childhood educators are documenting is so important. It's not something that is okay to be left on the floor. It's so critical. So the fact that now parents can see this on their own time not only makes it more convenient for the parents, but I hope that it has helped in a way, helped your educators feel more seen through their work because they know it is being seen. They no longer spend time on this and, find it on the floor or left in a cubby by mistake.
Absolutely. We had so many parents that were learning things about their children. Like they would come in and say, I read on the report they use their pincer grasp. What is that? And so the staff would be excited that they actually knew something the parents didn't know about. So they would educate our parents about it. The parents would be like, oh, this is great. And staff would say, now look out for this part of their child's learning. And then they would come a couple of days later and say, we tried it and they're doing it. So it was really sweet to see that. And still we have new families that still come in. We still get that excitement, even though, majority of our families have gone through it. And, it's something we've been doing for a while. It's those new families that come in, you kind of forget about it. And they're like, this is amazing. You're like, oh yeah, you haven't seen this before. So it's still rewarding even 3 years later.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. That's amazing. Now, I would love to kind of, before we bring my colleague Kayla on here with us, I would love to kind of ask both of you, so you brought Hi Mama into your center as leaders, knowing that this was going to be a very beneficial change, but you were both faced, maybe expecting it or maybe unexpectedly faced with staff resistance, and in Amanda's case, it sounds like some parent resistance as well. And those are really big hurdles to overcome to make these changes. So having gone through all that now, what would you say is the biggest reason why it was worth it to go through supporting resistant staff and resistant parents? Why that whole transition period was worth it to be where you are now? And why don't we start with you, Amanda?
I think the biggest thing is it helped the parents see us as educators. Like it's not who's gonna watch you today. You're gonna have so-and-so babysit you while I'm at work. It was, we're teachers now. Like they could see how what we were doing connected to our state foundation. They could see that when we put the extra details on things or added the little notes about stuff, like it showed our attention to what's happening, and it showed how much we care, and it showed our expertise, really, because we could say, this doesn't seem quite right. Like this doesn't seem, this, but it's not, may not be a big deal, but here's this information, and just being able to have a bigger area where you can put all those details and you know they're going to go home. I really feel like that helped make the shift from we're just a daycare to we're teachers and our kids are learning things while they're here. That's the biggest thing for me.
That's amazing. I really love that, Amanda. And what about you, Dorie? What would you say is the biggest piece of value you found?
I definitely agree with Amanda. I also think it really made a partnership with our parents as well, especially over the pandemic. So, part of our parent involvement was our staff sending out little weekly emails to say, hey, this weekend, why don't you go on a scavenger hunt? And why don't you send us those pictures? So it's not only us sending you pictures, you send those and we can use them at show and share, and we can show their friends what they've been doing on the weekend. So we became partners with our parents, and that has been a huge value for us. Our relationship, I can definitely say, is stronger now than before, when we were using our old system where parents didn't ask a lot of questions about it. It was thank you for sending it. Where now it's really thank you for sending that and taking the time.
Amazing. Those are both beautiful answers. Thank you so much for sharing that. And I'm so happy that you found such meaningful value with making this transition at your center and sticking through with it, even when it was challenging for both of you to do. Now, I'm going to give you both a quick break, catch your breath. You've given us a lot of helpful information and tips. So catch your breath, take a sip of water, anything at all. I am going to, as always, quickly launch our questions of the day to our audience before we bring my lovely colleague, Kayla, on. My fabulous colleague, Kayla, is joining us today to take us through quickly those features that Dorie and Amanda just explained have been so beneficial at their centers and how you can actually use them to save time for yourself and your educators. We're going to do a very quick tour with Kayla, and then we're going to bounce back and do a Q&A with Amanda and Dorie. So for directors and educators on here, if you have specific questions that you would love to know from Amanda and Dorie about their experience, we will get to those right after we go through our demonstration with Kayla in 1 minute. I am going to go ahead and quickly launch our questions of the day. We would love to know how you communicate with your families currently at your center. And if you're interested in learning about how Hi Mama can help support you in your parent communication, the same way that Amanda and Dorie have explained to us that Hi Mama has brought value into their parent communication at their center, saved their staff time, and even helped increase their staff recognition, which is so important in early childhood, especially as we struggle with staff burnout and staff retention. I think such a big piece of that is making sure our staff feel recognized. So let us know if you're interested in learning how Hi Mama can support you in those areas. And I am going to go ahead and welcome my lovely colleague, Kayla, on. Welcome, Kayla. Thank you so much for joining us. Kayla is one of our onboarding representatives here at Hi Mama. So if you do sign up for Hi Mama and join our Hi Mama family, you would have a lovely onboarding rep. Maybe it'll be Kayla, who will help you get Hi Mama set up at your center. You are absolutely not alone as you make this transition. We are here to make sure it is successful. Kayla, the stage is all yours. I'm going to let you take it away.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Maddie. So I'm going to start by sharing my screen with you. And as we take a look at some of those fun features that we talked about, I wanted you to kind of get to see them in action here. So first off, we've got this amazing daily report that we were talking about. Now, as we start to add entries to our report throughout the day, they begin to populate for the parents to see. And when we send the report at the end of the day, it will be this beautiful, lovely creation with all of the hard work and notes that you've put in for the parents to see all of that work that you're putting in with their children every day. Now, sorry, here we are. Perfect. So as you can see, you have a lot of options, but we're going to focus on what Dorie and Amanda were talking about, which is that parent communication. You've got this messaging center within your app, and you can just pop in here and hit this compose button to be able to have some direct communication with you and your families. So the first thing you're going to do is decide who you're sending it to, and you'll have the ability to send it to individual children, the entire classroom, the entire center, or you can even go by age groups. You have a lot of options in here. You can include teachers on the thread or have it be confidential between administrator and parents. And as we scroll down here, you see you actually have options to create templates. So you can create a body of a subject that perhaps you send the same email multiple times a week, or when you have center closures, well, you can create a template for that, save it in here, and that way it will automatically be able to populate for you anytime you need that message. You can even schedule send any messages that need to go out. Perhaps you want something to go out in the morning time and you don't have time to write it before it goes out. Well, you can write it in the evening and schedule it to go out for any day you'd like it to in the future, okay? So we actually have a lot of great features in here, and the most important part of it is that it gives you that direct communication between you and the parents. Now, one of the other things that we talked about was how to create that beautiful report that I showed you in the beginning. And that's all you have to do is add entries. And we're going to go in here. It's very simple from the classroom perspective. It can also be done from the administrative perspective, which is what we're doing right now. So we can come in here, click an activity. All we have to do is select which children participated in that activity. And if it was all of them, it's a nice and quick click of a button. We'll enter a description here and say, perhaps the children engaged in a musical circle today. Luckily, there's spell check to catch all of those for us. Perfect. Okay, and now we can even choose to add a photo, a video, or a collage of up to 4 photos. So all we do is we decide what we want to add in here. We will upload that photo, and once we do, we actually have the option to now only include this in the report or to email it immediately to the parents so that they can actually see in real time the video or photo that we're adding. And you can additionally tag developmental skills so that the parents have an even better understanding of the types of skills that you are working on as you engaged in these activities. So we would choose our age range, which would allow us to then choose a domain. And that would allow us to choose a skill. And we would then be able to choose indicators based on that skill. Now, this current framework is set up for Ontario. However, we do have frameworks for places all around the world. So definitely inquire if you'd like to know whether or not we have your framework. And if we do not have it, we can always try and upload it for you, okay? So you would go ahead and tag that developmental skill there. Now you might be thinking, my staff don't have time to do this while they're watching the children. Well, one of our great features is this activity planner we have. If your staff have programmed this activity in advance, instead of having to include all of this information now, they would simply click import from activity planner and it would bring that lesson right in that they've already planned ahead of time, okay? So that is the basic overview of our messaging center and our adding reports. And let me hand it back over to Maddie. There we are. Thanks so much, everyone.
Thank you so much, Kayla. That was awesome. I hope that was helpful for everyone to see everything that Amanda and Dorie were sharing with us and see exactly how they do it and how simple it is to get comfortable with Hi Mama at your center. Okay, I am going to go ahead and actually share my screen again. And Amanda and Dorie, I hope that was a nice little break. We have a couple questions for you that I think a few repetitive questions came in. So I know that a few directors and educators on here are quite curious about knowing, how do staff now do their documentation? Like, what does that routine look like? And is it something that is hard to find the time to do Hi Mama while in the classroom? Another breath, do you ever have to go in and cover so educators can document in Hi Mama? So really what we're looking for is, how do your teachers, how do they build Hi Mama into their classroom routine? And Dorie, we can start with you.
So we have encouraged our staff not to do this during programming time. We want them on the floor engaging with the children. We don't want them to take their eyes off of them. Sleep time is the best time to input this. So now infants can sometimes be a challenge because we've always got infants awake, but we've put in a light in our sleep room so that the teacher who's in the sleep room monitoring sleep can easily go and input all of the documentation. Our toddlers and preschoolers are able to find time when the children are asleep to input as well. If it is a very busy, crazy day, then we are able to get them some coverage when they're outside to have them come in to input. But that doesn't happen very often. The majority of the time, they're able to do it at sleep time. Staff get so good at it that they don't need as much time. Definitely when you are first introducing this, they might need a little bit longer to upload pictures. You know, on a really rainy day in our neighborhood, the internet can sometimes be a little testy, which takes a little bit longer for pictures to upload. But the majority of the staff, once they feel very comfortable with it, can get it inputted very quickly.
Okay, so Dorie, how long or how much time would you say your educators need to get their documentation done in Hi Mama?
I would say maybe when uploading photos in total, 45 minutes, but maybe not all staff. Again, staff that are really comfortable with it probably can do it quicker. It also depends on how many children that we have. Infants, there's only 10. You know, our preschool room, there are 16, so that might take a little bit longer for the preschoolers to upload, but really not that long.
Okay. And what about you, Amanda? What does kind of a routine look like? How do your educators find the time, and what does that time look like?
With our infants, they try to document it when it happens. So you change the diaper, get the kid put back down, get it in the app, change it. We have a board in our classrooms that we keep track of diaper changes and stuff. So that's the routine. You change them, get it in the app, change the board, and then you can see, okay, what comes next. But then anything like notes or activities or anything that's a little more time consuming than just a quick, you know, change our bottle, that's done at nap time. And we don't use the picture function as much because we have a Facebook group that we put all our pictures in. So it's mostly, you know, focusing on notes and activities, and they can just get that in at nap. And I can't imagine it takes too long. Like I said, we're all pretty comfortable with it now. So maybe 20 to 30 minutes at most, depending on how elaborate they get it with their activities. I try to be very flexible. Like there's some days where you want to put every single activity and connect it to things and explain what happened and add a picture. And then there's some days where you're like, okay, here's just a list of things we did. And here's 3 activities that there are 3 developmental skills that go with it, and move on. Like just let the day sort of dictate how detailed you can get. But as long as you get some stuff on there, I really don't get too worried about it as the administrator, just as long as it shows that something's happening.
Absolutely. So you kind of set like a bit of a baseline of expectations of what we should be communicating to the parents, and then depending on your day, depending on the classroom, feel free to share more information if they wanted to. And when you both answered, so I think it's so interesting, right? Centers can use Hi Mama and find their routine differently depending on the classroom, the needs of the families, that the educators they have. So curious to know, do you set kind of a baseline schedule for your educators, or did you kind of set, you know, some basic expectations, but then let educators find their own routine in the classroom? And why do you do that one? We can go back to you if you'd like, Dorie.
So we do both. So we say that by Friday, you know, you have to have your 2 pictures inputted. You need to make sure an email has been sent every day. And if you haven't had time to do it every day, 1 large one at the end of the day. But then you allow staff to find that time on their own. And I think what Amanda said is very true. There are some days where it is extremely busy and you would not be able to upload. Nobody fell asleep, so sleep time's a write-off. But that's okay. If you start on a Monday, and you say this to the staff all the time, if you start slowly on a Monday, by Friday, there must be at least a couple of minutes where you were able to input all of that. But you trust your staff. You say to your staff, you know when it is best to do it. So you know to find the time. And if they can't, that's when they would reach out to us and say, you know, we've had a couple consecutive hard nap times, especially when there's new kids in the classroom. That's where you might need to support your caregivers a little bit more, because sleep time is something new to these children that are moved into a classroom. So that's where you would throw them an extra staff just to help them out.
Absolutely. It's just being flexible on a daily basis with how it's going to work, because that's the nature of childcare. You never really know what your day is going to look like. And Amanda, again, I thought it looks like you agree with a lot of what Dorie said there about how to let educators find their routine or setting kind of a schedule for them. How did it work for you?
Yeah, I mean, my big thing is just I never want to add a burden to my staff members, because I know how hard it can be some days in the room when everybody's crying and nobody's sleeping and you can't go outside. And so, I mean, the big thing for me is always make sure you get the food and the diapers and the nap on there if they slept. If you miss a day of activities, nobody's going to lose any sleep over that, because at this point we've established a good enough relationship with the parents that they know stuff's still happening, and there's still pictures being uploaded to our Facebook group. So there's still things going on, but it's, what are you comfortable with? Like, I need you to at least have an activity or two, but if you are more comfortable putting every activity in, on its own thing with pictures, do that. But it's really, like Dorie said, trusting your staff. Like, this is what I need from you, like this little bit. And then if you go above and beyond every single day, awesome, do that, because that's just going to strengthen the relationships with the parents in your class and the families. So I really try not to make it ever feel like a burden. Like, just get what you can, and then we'll keep moving, and tomorrow's a new day.
Absolutely. And Amanda, what type of devices do your educators use?
We have tablets, so the educators will use tablets.
Okay.
We have Kindles in our rooms.
Okay. So you both use a tablet then, not computer or phone. Okay.
A lot of our teachers have it on their phones too, for those backup moments when the internet quit interneting. They do that too, so that there's always kind of a backup plan.
Yeah, absolutely. I remember when I worked in a toddler classroom and an infant classroom, we had it on our phone sometimes if you're outside on the go, so you can still have that communication with you really wherever you go. Okay, well, it is 2:57. I know it's the three of us were talking about, we knew this would fly by. Thank you so much to both of you for those tips and tricks and your insights into what this experience was like for you. I know for so many directors and educators on here, this can seem like a very intimidating transition. So Amanda and Dorie, thank you so much for sharing your insights. Before I let you go, do you have any last words of wisdom to share with your educators in the early learning space about why transitioning to digital communication was worth it?
Yeah, I would definitely tell your staff that it will be so rewarding at the very end, to stick with it, and definitely come to you if they're having issues. Don't be afraid to ask. There's no dumb questions. If you're really having difficulties, come and tell us.
Yeah, absolutely. Amanda?
Yeah, it changes everything. Like, if you're doing pencil and paper right now, like, you're done making copies, you're done losing papers, you're done storing papers. It's all right there. You can pull it up whenever you need it. It saves so much time. Like we did. If you're hesitant, your own self, just 12 months, give it a year. And if you hate it in a year, then you can do something else. But I promise you won't. It's amazing.
Thank you both so much. I don't know if you've been able to keep an eye on the chat at all, but I do know there's many people in the early learning community here saying a big thank you to you for sharing your time and your knowledge with us. It was so valuable to learn from both of you today. I appreciate you both so much. We love having you in the Hi Mama family, and thank you so much for being here with us today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And to all of our guests on here, before we wrap up, another big thank you to Dorie and Amanda. That was just such a fabulous conversation. And lastly, if you're not already connected with us, please do connect with us. We have a Facebook Circle Time group that my lovely colleague Kaya is on, and she is there chatting with tons of educators and directors who are just constantly sharing ideas and tips and tricks similar to today in our Facebook Circle Time group on different activities you can bring into the classroom. And also follow us on our Facebook and Instagram so you can constantly stay up to date with what is going on at Hi Mama. And of course, on top of our webinars, if you don't already listen to our podcast, I highly recommend you do. You can listen to them on the go. They're absolutely fabulous. and for next week. So again, for everyone who has been here today, you will receive a certificate of participation for being here. We will get those out to you early next week with the show notes email that will have a recording of our webinar today. As you noticed, there were no slides today. So I know for many of our guests on here, you're used to getting the slides as well. So don't worry if there are not slides attached to your show notes email. And then next week, we are learning about co-regulation strategies to support children's emotional development, a very big topic. I am so excited. Morgan will post a link in the chat, same time, same place, next Thursday, 2 p.m. Eastern time. We will be talking about co-regulation strategies to support children's emotional development. And right on the dot, 3 o'clock. Thank you so much, everybody, for being here with us today and taking time out of your busy days. I hope to see you all next week. Take care, everybody.